This is Special Prosecutor Larry Klayman.
I'm the only lawyer ever to obtain a court ruling that a president of the United States committed a crime.
For truth. For competition.
As a young lawyer, I helped break up AT&T. That's why you have all your cell phones today.
For sovereignty. For the Republic.
I'm the guy who at Judicial Watch, which I founded, uncovered the Chinagate scandal. Millions of dollars going to the Clinton campaign, corrupting our political system.
For the privacy of citizens.
And I'm the only guy to have enjoined the National Security Agency from mass surveillance on hundreds of millions of Americans.
Tearing it up.
I'm the son of meat packers in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I know how to slice and dice.
Bringing it back.
We're going to take this country apart and put it back together again in the way envisioned by our founding fathers.
It's not just talk.
We're not just regurgitating news stories. Larry Klayman, special prosecutor, is making the news.
And now, here's Larry.
Welcome to this week's edition of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman. You know, my former father-in-law, Italian, used to say, appreciate today because tomorrow is going to be even worse. Well, you know what? It is worse today, I'll tell you. It's worse in a whole lot of different ways, but we're going to make it better. And with God's grace, we're going to save this country. And I've written about it in my new book, It Takes a Revolution, Forget the Scandal Industry. You can purchase it at Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, Borders.com, all of them, because it's clear that this country is in a nosedive. And with the news today that the president has contracted COVID-19, along with the first lady, you can bet that the left is going to use that. Now, there's false tears being given this morning by Nancy Pelosi. In fact, so much so that maybe her 25 facelifts may actually come undone. I mean, who knows? As well as Biden's. He's had several in his own right. In fact, the president cracked a joke the other day. Doesn't understand why he wears a mask, having had all those operations to make him look better. But humor aside, there's nothing funny today. The president has contracted COVID-19. The left is going to say that he's been irresponsible, that the very fact that he's taken COVID-19 lightly has not only jeopardized the American people, but now himself. He's 74 years old. He's 44 pounds overweight. He's in the risk group. Let us pray for him for sure. But his reelection right now is hanging by a thread. And COVID-19 becomes the major issue. There are other issues as well, and the issues involving law and order in the streets and everyone under the sun. We're going to have as our guest ENRIQUE TARRIO, the head of Proud Boys, how he's been destroyed and how they're destroying him, and how even the Republican establishment is jumping on board, begging for forgiveness because they are afraid that they're going to be called white supremacists. Well, according to the radical left, anybody who's white is a white supremacist because we are born with a racist gene. That being said, is that the president himself needs to now take strong action. I believe that he will get through this COVID-19 crisis. The First Lady will get through it as well. I, Larry Klayman, personally, I don't say this as the head of public interest groups, either freedomwatchusa.org or americasheriff.org. I don't endorse candidates. I don't tell people who to vote for, but I will vote for him and I will support him. But you know what? Everybody makes mistakes. Nobody's perfect. I make mistakes, but you try to learn from those mistakes. And the president needs to learn from his mistakes. The first mistakes he needs to learn from is that he needs to get people around him who support him, who are good, who aren't going to stab him in the back or draw him down. Okay, people like Roger Stone, for instance, could do that. Let's hope that he stays out of this campaign and doesn't start giving advice to the president that the president takes. Because the advice that he should be taking right now is to stay strong, to not react, but to do things that are firm. Now that he has contracted COVID-19, it's not enough. And I wrote a column in WorldNet Daily last Friday. I want you to read it at freedomwatchusa.org, which is about the communist Chinese. Now, the communist Chinese have attacked him personally and his family. It's not enough to call the communist Chinese leadership in Beijing names. It's not enough to make fun of what they did by calling it the Kung Flu. It's not enough to say that we have the strongest military in the world and thereby threaten communist China. Because, you know, the reality is now they have a military equal to our own. Thanks to Obama and the rest of those hacks in his administration, they allowed our military to be drawn down while the Chinese were building up and stealing technology. They have now hypersonic weapons that are more advanced than ours that can hit us with nuclear weapons in a matter of minutes. So what does the president need to do? Rather than just challenging the Chinese in terms of tweets, he needs to join Freedom Watch's class action. He needs to instruct his attorney general to intervene and support us in Dallas, Texas, in our criminal case in The Hague, Holland, against these communist Chinese. And here's the other thing, and we're going to talk about this with Enrique TARRIO, is that even the conservative pundits, many of them, not all of them, but many of them, run from controversy. They run from crises. Enrique TARRIO and the Proud Boys, just last Thursday night, was thrown under the bus by Lindsey Graham, that despicable head of the Judiciary Committee who's done nothing, plays both sides of the aisle, simply was trying to win the conservative base with his defense of Kavanaugh. But then when it costs him, because he's obviously at risk in South Carolina for re-election, when it costs him, he'll throw anybody under the bus. And last Thursday night, he called Enrique TARRIO, and you're going to hear that he's not a white supremacist, no more than you are a white supremacist. So did Tim Scott, the African-American senator from South Carolina, as well. So they've joined Biden in this crusade. They've turned TARRIO into the equivalent of Willie Horton. But as importantly, is that when I tried to get the truth out, and I tried to do it on Eric Bolling's show on Sinclair, and I like Sinclair, and I like the owner of Sinclair, David Smith, and all of them over there. But Eric Bolling, no, he's two-faced. Frankly, I don't think he should have a show over there, because if you're not going to be strong, then lead, follow, or get out of the way, as I've said. But I had Dr. Judy Mikovits on, and she explained, and I've got other experts as well with regard to our case in Dallas, Texas, and experts for our case in Jerusalem, Israel, because I have really brave Israeli colleagues, and our case in The Hague. I've got 4 experts at this point, including Dr. Mikovits, who will testify that what the communist Chinese unleashed, either accidentally or by design, was a bioweapon. It's not immune from suit. It's banned by international convention. And that this bioweapon, the seeds of it, were given to the communist Chinese Wuhan lab by Dr. Anthony Fauci, with money being appropriated by the Obama administration, President Obama himself, to that Chinese lab to do research on the roots of that, the SARS roots, which became COVID-19, because that research could not be done at a military virology lab in Fort Detrick, Maryland. Now remember what Fort Detrick, Maryland is. They're supposed to study viruses to protect us from bioweapons attacks. Unfortunately, they themselves have created bioweapons. In fact, the anthrax, which was released after 9/11, was given to Saddam Hussein to use against the Iranians. We were obviously trying to push back after what happened with the Iranian hostage crisis at our embassy in Tehran, and it got out. And consequently, we sowed the seeds for our own destruction. Now the president needs to take action. I believe that the reason he's only been insulting the Chinese and threatening them is because he knows that there's an American component to what happened. He's not responsible for it, although some money that was appropriated by Obama automatically went over to the Wuhan lab during his administration. But now is the time to take action. Now is the time to freeze the Chinese assets in this country, to pay for all the damage that's been done to this economy, to our way of life, to the people that have died. And that's why we brought the class action. And ask yourself the question, why did Freedom Watch and Larry Klayman and our Israeli colleagues, why did we have to do it? Why wasn't it our government that did it? That's because you can't believe a word that comes out of the government. That's because the president himself is not in control of most aspects of the government. It's a deep state in the executive branch that represents its own interests, its own nefarious interests, acquiring power, acquiring money on both sides of the aisle. Lindsey Graham's part of that. They come into office modestly, they go out as multimillionaires. And during the time that they're there, they prance around Washington in multi-$1,000 Italian suits and ties and cufflinks, gold cufflinks, with money being stuffed into their pockets by lobbyists and other special interest groups. And that's what the president came to Washington to break up. He's had a hard time because they've tried to destroy him. But now the communist Chinese have succeeded in taking him to his knees. Now, remember, the president's 74 years old. He's 44 pounds overweight. He's at high risk. Let us pray for him. And let's hope he gets his way through this. Now, fortunately, as of last Friday, Vice President Pence and his second lady have not contracted the virus. If he needs to take over, I have confidence in Pence that he will try to do the right thing, but he's also the product of the Republican establishment. He's not like Trump. He's not going to stick his neck out to that degree. And that's why we, the American people, must rise up. That's why we must fight the Second American Revolution. That's why we must push back. And that's why I wrote the book. It takes a revolution. Forget the scandal industry. Get up off the couch. Put the Diet Coke, the wine, the beer, the popcorn down. Turn off Fox News. They've been trying to stab the president in the back as well. Look at Chris Wallace, the head of Fox News, Lachlan Murdoch, allows to go on there and ask the president loaded questions at the debate and in effect accuse him of being a white supremacist over a group that he didn't have much knowledge about, which was the Proud Boys. And that's why I'm having the Proud Boys on, because they need to explain who they are, because they're not white supremacists. In fact, the head of it, ENRIQUE TARRIO, is a Hispanic black person. I mean, this is as bizarre as Dave Chappelle's skit, The White Supremacist, ironically. Go off on the internet and see that. I mean, this is how bizarre the things are, but you know what? It's evil. It's evil. The left is pure evil. They are trying to destroy this country. They've been taken over by communists, socialists, leftists, atheists, radicals of all race, color, and creed. And that is why your Freedom Watch will stand up and we will fight along with others to save this country. So go to freedomwatchusa.org. Join our cause. We are not afraid. You cannot be afraid. This is the time that tries men's souls. It's not the time for the summer patriot. The country's hanging by a thread. I'll be right back with the second segment of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman. Until then, go to freedomwatchusa.org and sign up for our Justice League. The time is now.
Fearless.
He's claiming he's crazy, he's racist, he's out to kill the Democrats.
Dangerous.
You don't care, he uses the court and the law.
Lethal.
This is bad.
Special Prosecutor
Very bad.
Larry Klayman.
If you'd like to support Freedom Watch and this radio show, go to freedomwatchusa.org.
In addition to trying to destroy people who stand up for the vision of our founding fathers, people like Enrique Tarrio that we're going to have on in the next two segments, and people like myself, obviously, I've been under attack. I've been under attack from the very first time I started Judicial Watch back in 1994, on July 29th, 1994, when the Washington Post walked into my office, did an interview, which was a hit piece, and totally misrepresented what we were trying to do in bringing about justice with the Clinton administration. Then every lazy leftist journalist after that just copied that. But you know what? It made me stronger. As Nietzsche says, that which does not kill you will make you stronger. And we need to be stronger today. But right now, I'm under attack by the Bar Disciplinary Council in the District of Columbia, which has become very politicized. You know, 4 former presidents of the District of Columbia Bar, plus an assistant senior disciplinary counsel, recently signed a complaint against Attorney General Bill Barr, who I don't even like, who I think has been worthless. But of course, you know, they should be happy that he's worthless, because the people that run disciplinary counsel are leftists. Some of them are ultra leftists. They've all donated heavily to Obama, to Clinton, to other Democrats. There's not a Republican at all in there. They've allowed a complaint to be filed, and we don't know what happened, but it's against Kellyanne Conway for remarks she made on MSNBC, a bar complaint. Kellyanne Conway is a lawyer. She's in active status. But a leftist bar professor by the name of a leftist law professor by the name of Michael Tiger, who was even fired by Chief Justice or by the Justice William Brennan for his subversive ties, signed that along with 16 leftist professors. They let these cases go forward. But at the same time, David Kendall of Williams and Connolly, who obstructed justice and destroyed 33,000 emails along with Hillary Clinton, her lawyer, I've been fighting Kendall for years, and Williams and Connolly, a complaint's filed against him, they throw it in the trash within seconds. This is what we're dealing with. So last week, a leftist journalist by the name of Josh Gerstein wrote this hit piece, which suggested that somehow, I'm getting my comeuppance, that I'm going to be disbarred, that I'm going to be removed from the practice of law. Well, that's not going to happen, I'll tell you. Larry Klayman fights, and I don't take it laying down. The problem is that the District of Columbia Board of Professional Responsibility heretofore has not policed itself. They don't police their own organization. And the Bar Council, this new one that came in, Hamilton Fox, along with Julia Porter, who is his hitman, ultra-leftists are taking the initiative and trying to remove people who are conservative lawyers and support the president. Well, that's not going to happen, I'll tell you. But Gerstein, for Political, wrote a very defamatory piece. He's going to be sued, and I'm going to sue the Bar Council, the Disciplinary Council, along with him, because there's an acknowledgement in that story that they were leaking information to him, which was untrue. They're not supposed to talk about disciplinary proceedings. Believe it or not, 2 of those disciplinary proceedings were filed by Tom Fitton of Judicial Watch, who's always been very competitive with me. And, this is what we're going through right now. This is a situation where even people that are supposed to be on our side are crouching, getting under the table, not taking any action. And, I'm a lawyer in Florida. I'm a lawyer, generally speaking. It's not going to keep me from doing what I have to do, but it takes up my time. It diverts what I do. And, I do have a legal defense fund for that. But the thing is that this is the world we live in, is that anybody who will take a strong stand, the left will try to destroy. And there are even people who claim to be on the right that will throw the towel in for whatever reason and crouch under the table, begging for forgiveness. And this is a situation where the American people need to rise up themselves. And that's why they need to go out and purchase my book. It takes a revolution, forget the scandal industry. Gerstein will get his, and so will Politico. And unfortunately, Gerstein's a part of the Jewish left. I'm Jewish, very proud of it. I'm a Jewish Christian. The Jewish left has always hated me because not only are you not supposed to be conservative, much like African Americans are not supposed to be conservative, but I also believe in Jesus. I believe in our Savior. I believe in the Messiah. And you're not supposed to believe in that if you're Jewish. But you know what? Jesus was a Jewish rabbi. He was the truest Jew there ever was. And I'm proud of that fact. And, consequently, I'm as Christian as Jesus was. And he wasn't even Christian. They created Christianity after him. He is the Son of God, and I'm proud of that. And I will let no party on the Jewish left try to defame me because they resent that. So God bless you. God bless your family. Stay safe. Go out and purchase the book because it's a call to legal and peaceful arms. We, the American people, must stand up and defend ourselves. I'll be right back. Enrique TARRIO.
And now, 4 words that make corrupt politicians make wee-wee in their little pants.
Transparency and the rule of law will be the touchstones of this presidency.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
Special Prosecutor Larry Klayman.
Be the one who makes our country great again. Go to freedomwatchusa.org and donate.
I'm back with Enrique TARRIO, the leader of the Proud Boys, who's been subject to a lot of controversy lately, unfair controversy, smeared by Joe Biden, even smeared by the head of the Judiciary Committee, Lindsey Graham, just last Thursday night. I want to introduce Enrique, and I want him to explain who he is, who the Proud Boys are, how they've been harmed and discriminated against, and where we go with this nation when we have this kind of reaction to somebody who simply is trying to protect and preserve the freedoms and liberties of this country. Enrique, I introduce you to Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman. I'm very proud to have you on our show. I know what you're going through because many of my clients have gone through the same thing, and yours truly has also gone through this. The left will try to destroy anyone who disagrees with them. Enrique?
Well, thank you. First and foremost, thank you for having me on. As you just announced to your viewers, my name is Enrique TARRIO. I'm a business owner out of Miami. I'm a Cuban American, and I am the chairman of the Proud Boys, which I had no idea that we were going to be front and center in the first debate of probably the most election we've ever seen. And a lot of people don't know who the Proud Boys are, and I feel like we're a very misunderstood group, and we're a very demonized group by the left. And it always boils down to an election. So in the 2018 election, if you remember, Larry, the whole jobs, not mobs was trending. And the left was desperately looking for a boogeyman. They found it in the Proud Boys. And here we are in the 2020 election. Biden made a crucial mistake on that debate stage. The president was asked to denounce white supremacists and militia groups. And while the president was asking for a name from Chris Wallace, Biden butt in and said, the Proud Boys. And the reason why I say it's a crucial mistake is I understand we're not everybody's cup of tea. We're rough around the edges. We cuss and drink like sailors. I get it. But one thing that you could never call us, and probably the most inaccurate thing that you can call us, is white supremacists. I don't know if your viewers know what I look like, but I am extremely brown. I speak better Spanish than I do English. And I run an organization that does not, like in the application to become a Proud Boy, we don't ask you what your race is, what your cultural background is, or what your religion is. We don't care. We honestly don't care. We ask you, do you think America is the best country? Do you believe that the West is the best? And we show you what our tenets are, which consist of pro-family American values. We're big on the First Amendment. We're big on the Second Amendment. We're big on the American nuclear family. We actually, some people might think that two of our tenets are leaning left, which I don't think so. I think they're conservative tenets, but we want to close private prisons for profit, and we think that the drug war has failed. And I think we need to re-examine that. So we're being used, Larry. We're being used to raise money for a campaign and to raise fear. Biden yesterday made an ad with us on it, with the tiki torches and stuff like that. We didn't go to that tiki torch march. We don't care. Again, we don't care what your race is, but he also sent two fundraising emails mentioning us by name. So a lot of people say, well, I don't understand where this hate's coming from. I understand it completely, and it's not from our side. It's not because of our views. It's because they're desperate to win an election. They desperately need to win. They know that they're clawing at everything that they can, including calling me a white supremacist, which multiple news outlets have called me that. Not showing my picture.
Well, Enrique, this is typical of what goes on, is that the left will first make you radioactive. It happens to Joe Arpaio, my client, Sheriff Arpaio, Chief Justice Roy Moore, Laura Loomer, who's running for Congress up there in Palm Beach. You're down there in Florida right now. Florida's my home state. And many of my other clients, Jerry Corsi is another example. They make you radioactive, and they make you an untouchable. They turn you into what is, in effect, a leper. But then what's even worse is that people on the so-called, and I say so-called, conservative side of the aisle, they run from it. They get scared of it. Yeah. And they'll join in. And yesterday, Lindsey Graham, head of the Judiciary Committee, also called you a white supremacist. Tim Scott, African-American senator from South Carolina, threw you under the bus. And they don't even bother to do research. They just go with the flow because they're scared. And that's what's going on today. And that's why the Proud Boys does, you perform a valuable function, because you are standing up to what's going on. You have not engaged in violence, and you're not white supremacists. But to get people to understand that is the worst. And I'll tell you something, white people are responsible for this because they run from this. They're scared of it. They get into a crouched position. They say, forgive me. don't hurt me, and I'll say whatever you want me to say, radical left, because I want to be left alone. And that's where we are today with the rioting in the streets, the killing, the maiming, the burning, everything else, is that the whites are running from this. And, one might say that they're responsible for what's going on in large part, in addition to the radical left. So that's my 2 cents right here. And I'd like you to tell people what happened to you, how you've been banned from social media, how you've lost your accounts, how you've been put on the edge of bankruptcy, if not bankruptcy itself, and how they've destroyed you and your group.
Well, I think I'm probably Laura Loomer is probably the most banned woman in the world, but I am definitely the most banned man in the world. At first it was tough, but now it's I've learned. But I've been banned. It started off with social media, which we don't need social media to live, but we do need social media to have a voice, specifically a political voice, because that's how right now in the digital age, how you tell people what your views are as a candidate or as an activist. So I was knocked off of those platforms, and then the ball started rolling. The snowball effect started happening. PayPal, Airbnb, Coinbase Commerce. I've gone through 63 credit card processors for a T-shirt shop. I'm not even selling guns. I'm not even like one of those marijuana dispensaries. I sell T-shirts. And then I made a joke about this after I got banned off social media. I'm like, oh, one day my bank is going to ban me. Well, my bank did ban me. Chase Bank banned me. And I worked for Project Veritas for a while, and we did an expose. We actually got in communication with somebody in the Chase executive branch, and their words, and maybe we've heard these words before. Maybe you've heard these words before, Larry. We don't do business with those kinds of people. It's pretty reminiscent of something. I'm not allowed. Perfect example, Airbnb. I never used Airbnb. I just signed up for an account, and I got banned for being part of a pro-America organization. I don't have this Twitter. I don't have a Twitter account, so I can fight, this narrative, so I can say my story. So these people get to slander me left and right. These domestic terrorists get to keep their accounts. I don't want them to be silenced. I just want to have a voice. I want to be able to defend myself when all these news stories come out of how I'm the leader of a white supremacist organization, which is so untrue, and it's cost me everything. I used to be in the security and surveillance industry. I was a DoD contractor, and that got taken from me too because of my political views, because Antifa decided to dox who I am and what is it that I do. So my whole life has changed. I used to make a lot more money than I do now. I can't tell you that I'm not happier now. I feel like I'm living with a purpose, but that doesn't mean I could ever go back to where I was or what I built over the years.
Well, I commend people to read a Washington Times story, which was out last Friday. It describes who you are, what your group does. I mean, obviously, there's more to it than that, and I hope to have you back on our show again. But you can take solace, Enrique, for the fact that the radical left says that if you're white, you're born with a racist gene, that you're a white supremacist by definition. So I guess everybody is a white supremacist if they're white, according to the radical left, according to AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, according to Ilham Omar, according to Rashida Tlaib, according to these very vile people on the left. And that's what they're doing. But they're using you. You've become, in effect, the Willie Horton of the Democrats trying to retain or obtain control of the White House and retain control of the House of Representatives and take over the Senate. You become the whipping boy. Now, as of last Friday, the president contracted, apparently, COVID-19 along with the first lady. Hopefully that'll take this off of the front pages for a while, but it'll be back because they're going to use this in combination with the president's getting COVID-19 to say that he's not only a white supremacist because he refused to attack you, but that he's been totally irresponsible with COVID-19 and now has put the nation in jeopardy, he himself getting COVID-19. It's a bad situation, but it points out the fact that we, the American people, must rise up, must do it for themselves. I've written a new book, It Takes a Scandal Industry, It Takes a Revolution, Forget the Scandal Industry. I'll send you a copy. Is that we have to do it for ourselves. We cannot be afraid. Our founding fathers were not afraid, and they took on a tyrannical King George III. And now you're dealing with tyranny on the left that's trying to destroy you and using you as the whipping boy for their goals and their agendas.
Yeah. And you talked about Lindsey Graham, and I want to remind everybody one of my favorite Lindsey Graham quotes on the floor of Congress, where he said, he was talking to Democrats, and he said, "Boy, you want power, and I hope you never get it." And that resonated with me because I felt that. But Lindsey Graham yesterday basically gave them the power, gave them what they needed. They needed to capitulate. They needed the Republicans to capitulate, and that's exactly what happened yesterday. I still support. It's like disagreeing with people on certain topics. Just because it's me doesn't mean I need to remain objective. I disagree with them wholeheartedly on this, but every time that we need them the most is when they let us down. And they let us down for votes. They succumb to like their like this mob, and their morals. They throw them out the window, and they're like, "Hey, we need to do something." They're panicking. They're panicking because Twitter. They're panicking because they're not panicking because the American people. How many more people voted for Donald Trump? Because of Lindsey Graham's comments or Senator Scott's comment. How many votes did they win? Absolutely none. They threw their base. Both of them threw their base under the bus.
And that's right. We're going to come back. I want to hold you over for the last segment. It's the verdict segment, because there is a verdict here, if you don't mind, Enrique, because it's the Republican establishment that's actually going to cost possibly the president his reelection. And that's a very important point that you're making. I'll be right back with the verdict section of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman.
Before he was a trial lawyer, he sliced him and diced him.
People used to ask me, Larry, what caused you to start Judicial Watch and now Freedom Watch, given the powerful forces in this country that put you at risk?
In a meat packing plant.
I'm the son of meat packers in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I know how to slice and dice.
A very special prosecutor, Larry Klayman.
If you'd like to support Freedom Watch and this radio show, go to freedomwatchusa.org.
Now the verdict, fellow patriots, ladies and gentlemen, supporters of the Constitution of our Republic. I've been talking with Enrique Tarrio, the head of Proud Boys, who is black, who is Hispanic, who lives in Miami, lives in a very multicultural community and loves it. I'm actually a citizen of Florida, and I lived in Miami. Now I'm in Boca Raton, lived in Miami for 14 years, and I started my law practice there. And I like the fact that it's pluralistic, that it has all kinds of people there. And I love the Latin people in particular, and African Americans and everybody else that are down there, because it's a great city. But the bottom line here is that people like Lindsey Graham and Tim Scott, and Lindsey Graham in particular, who talks a good game, he was going to bring Comey and the rest of them accountable. We saw what he did the other day. I mean, he wasn't even prepared. It was an embarrassment when he had Comey testify. I mean, the guy is simply all talk and no action. He's full of BS. I'll use the abbreviation not to make it too controversial here. But this is the Republican establishment. They manipulate their electoral base. They try to profit from it. They promised that Obamacare would be revised, or at least done in some way that it would work. They've done nothing. They've lied to the American people. They've lied to their own base. And now people who actually are doing something, who stand up for what's right, they throw them under the bus, getting into a crouch position so they can hopefully be reelected. But you know what the answer is? They're going to lose a lot of their base. And if the president doesn't stand up for it now too, he will lose his. So Enrique, give us your thoughts here in the verdict section, because the verdict is that you have to be brave. You have to take risks. You have to believe in the concept of our founding fathers. And they pledged their lives and fortunes to create a new nation. And we have to do the same. And you're on the front lines right now. So I want to get your last thoughts on the verdict, which is the American people need to do it themselves.
I like this quote, and it's a quote that the SAS uses, and it's, "Who dares wins." And our founding fathers, just some farmers, some carpenters, started what we know today as America at the basement of the Green Dragon Tavern, which was a bar. They were probably drunk when they did it. And they dared. They dared to be free. They dared to challenge the world's biggest superpower at the time, and they won. Rosa Parks, they told her she can't sit in the front of that bus, and she dared, and she won. So we don't need any politician to tell us what to do. We will always stand for what's right. We'll always stand in the face of tyranny. We will always smile in the face of tyranny. And it doesn't matter what politician disavows us or wants to disavow us or badmouths us. We're going to be us, because that's the beauty of this country. I probably have the honor of being the chairman of the greatest fraternal organization in modern history. I have the best guys that truly live by American values, and they love this country, and they're not going to take a knee to appease any crowd. They're just going to do what's right, Larry.
Well, we need people like you, Enrique, and we cannot be afraid. They've done it to me. They've made me radioactive too. And, don't expect that you're going to get in on the major cable networks. They're afraid of this. They won't touch it. We have to get it out through social media. We have to get it out through word of mouth. That's the way it was done in the months and days leading up to our revolution in 1776. And I've written a book, and I'm going to send it to you. I want to get your thoughts on it. It's called It Takes a Revolution, Forget the Scandal Industry. You can pre-order it at Amazon.com and other booksellers online. But the moral to the story is that all three branches of government are controlled by a deep state. I explain what that deep state is. Nobody's really defined it. I've lived it now for decades. I fought it in the trenches. I didn't spend my time in a radio studio. I spent my time fighting them on the ground. I know what it's about. So thank you for everything that you do, Enrique. I'm going to have you back and hang in there. Stay strong. And the American people must stay strong as well. God bless them. God bless you. I'll be back next week with another edition of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman.
The available AKG 36-speaker sound system in the Cadillac Escalade provides 360-degree sound, not just here or here, but everywhere. The 2021 Cadillac Escalade. Never stop arriving.